Hi, everyone. So it's been really humbling being here and meeting all the people here because I get to work for a very large company that has lots of money and doesn't struggle for funding and doesn't really kind of have a lot of the problems that a lot of the people here face. But we face a different set of problems in that we have a lot of money and that we have 13,000 employees, and trying to get them to do anything kind of innovative or quick is pretty difficult. So I just got done building the point-of-sale technology stack. You may have heard we just partnered with Discover yesterday to reach 7 million points of sale in the US. That's the basic platform that I built. And today I'm going to talk about the journey that we took to get that done, to get shit done at PayPal. So this was the fastest, largest project we ever had. It was over 1,400 people, close to, I can't disclose the number. Very, very large amounts of product development. And I think for us, we had an incredible amount of learning in terms of what it actually takes to pivot a ship that big and move that fast. So it was February of 2010, and I was actually chilling out in Australia, and I got a call from the CEO at the time, and he said, hey, we want to go to the point of sale. Do you want to come help us? And I was like, sure. So I flew over to San Jose, and PayPal at the time was around 100 million users. We had over 9 million merchants, and we were in over 190 markets. Then the executives were asking, okay, so now what, right? We are the preferred way to pay. We were the preferred way to get paid online, but we want to be the preferred way to get paid anywhere. And why is that? We want to drive ubiquity for our customers. And we have lots of customers. We have developers, we have partners, we have merchants, and we have consumers. And we wanted to pursue an opportunity that's an order of magnitude larger than the online opportunity. So at the time, we calculated the potential online at about 700 billion, and offline at about 7 trillion. So it opened up a huge market for us. But we didn't really know how to get there. We knew that we had to put aside our preconceived limitations, both technically and culturally, and we also had to imagine the perfect shopping experience. But again, we'd never done anything like that. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we did that. First off, we had to accept one really fundamental thing, and that is that innovation is a long-term investment. If you look at this in terms of market share relative to the stage of adoption, we knew that we weren't trying simply to put a Me Too product out there. We weren't trying to fast follow. We weren't iterating. We were fundamentally trying to be disruptive. And that meant that we would have a very long adoption curve. It would take a very long time. And so before we even started, we got buy-in from the executives, all the cross-functional leaders. We got buy-in from eBay Inc. and from the board that we were actually going to invest in this for the long term. The second thing, we had to admit that hypergrowth is an anomaly. Pinterest is fascinating. We'd love to have as many users as they did in the small amount of time that we've been live as they have. But we knew that that wasn't going to happen. We planned for capacity that's 3-4x beyond what we thought our highest forecast would be. But we knew we weren't going to be the Tickle Me Elmo. And candidly, if the producers of Tickle Me Elmo knew that Tickle Me Elmo was going to be such a success, they wouldn't have had riots in the hallways of Walmart, right? They would have produced enough product. So hypergrowth is an anomaly. You can't predict it. And the last is that fear kills innovation. And I love this slide. Innovation, if it can't make your job easier, it can probably make it irrelevant. And for a lot of people at PayPal, especially a lot of the folks who'd been there for a very long time, they saw this point-of-sale initiative as being fundamentally threatening. They said, we do payments online. I know online. I don't know offline. And if you go offline, I might be kind of a moot point. And so there was this huge rush to either join the project or to kill the project by some folks. And so we spent a lot of time assuaging people's concerns, communicating, and kind of bringing everyone along for the ride. And ultimately, we had to demonstrate how this was going to be a net win for the entire company. There were several key lessons, and I'll just kind of quickly burn through these. First was, given the context, we have to know our customer. Now, our customer was an online customer. So I took my product team, and we went and spent an incredible amount of time actually shopping with consumers. We went to their houses. We stayed with them at night. We drove in the car with them to the store. We followed them through the store. We took pictures of what they did. We followed them to the bank. We did everything that we could with our customers. Now, we had a target demographic that we were after. And we realized that we had to empathize with these people. We had to wake up at night in cold sweats and go doodle architectures on our bathroom mirrors to try and make this perfect, which is what we ended up doing. The second is we had to know ourselves. Now, this was probably the most painful process of all, admitting that we actually didn't know what we were talking, admitting that we didn't know what we were talking about in a lot of the spaces that we were going to go into. So we made a big list. After we went and did all the shopping with the customers, after we went and did a bunch of research, quant, we made a huge list of stuff we didn't know. And some of these things were like really, really, really big questions. They're, multi-million-dollar answers. This is the list. And I took this list, and I broke it into little clusters, and I assigned it to a bunch of people, and I said, you need to go answer these questions, and I'm giving you 30 days, come back with the answers. And so with that, we built a foundation of knowledge of what we could know, what we didn't know, and what we would never be able to know. Stuff that we just either have to take a risk on or just not do. The next step for us, which honestly was probably the most important step, and I'd say we spent as much time communicating as we did building, was actually starting to sell the vision, not just internally, but again, we were trying to be disruptive. We were trying to fundamentally recreate payments, recreate retail. So we weren't thinking about simply just selling the people inside so that we get the funding. We were thinking about how do we bring merchants and consumers along? How do we bring the entire ecosystem along? So we started with these little use cases, and we picked retailers that were aspirational, like the Gap, and we told stories, like the story of Lindsay. Lindsay's a college student. She's at the mall. As she's walking through the mall, she walks by the Gap. We know that she likes the Gap, so we push her an offer. She goes into the store. She pays with PayPal. The offer is automatically applied. She walks out happy and shares it with her friends. We had about 7 or 8 of these use cases that we constructed, and we shared them with different people just to help them understand what we were trying to do. Ultimately, we built mock-ups. We built like high-fidelity mock-ups, functional mock-ups, and we tested these in situ. So we'd go out again to the stores with consumers and see if this is some kind of behavior they'd actually do. We tested it with their friends watching to see if the friends actually engaged with it. We tested it with the executives. We tested it with everyone. And ultimately, we built this gigantic shopping showcase in New York. It's actually right across the street from Jay-Z's house. It was pretty cool. And in here, we had 6 or 7 little vignettes. We had an actual coffee shop, hardware store, living room, grocery store, and we'd invite merchants, retailers, partners, consumers, anyone who could come in, and we'd walk them through the entire experience, end to end. And throughout that time, we were taking notes. We were learning. Every time someone said, I don't get it, that's unintuitive, we actually brought this great group of guys in from a startup in the Bay Area. And they were like, your app looks like a fucking Excel spreadsheet. It's terrible. And it was so informative for us because we thought, oh, we want to present a lot of data to the customer. And they just completely vomited on it. They rejected it. So it was very, very humbling. But it also drove us to iterate constantly. Even though we started with a very clear vision about what we wanted to do, the subtle nuance of how to actually articulate that, how to bring that to life, wasn't really understood until we went through the pain of communicating with as many people as possible. Throughout that process, I think one of the most humbling parts of this is self-awareness. We would go do some research, and I'd have to go back to my product team and pick, poor Sridhar, who'd been locked in a room coding or designing this one little thing for the last 3.5 months, and he hadn't slept well or eat well, and he was completely stressed out and freaked out because we had these unbelievable deadlines, and tell him that everything he was doing was completely wrong because we just got some new data and he needs to pivot and move. And there's a lot of emotions around the product because people were so tied to it. And that kind of self-awareness, we all had to work together to kind of call each other on our shit. So, I would freak out all the time, and people would be like, dude, you're freaking out, you need to calm down. But I think the absence of that self-awareness is why you get things like BlackBerry. Not to pick on BlackBerry, but we're going to pick on BlackBerry. They had an amazing product. They iterated forever. They had incredible market dominance, but they completely lost focus of their core customer. They didn't maintain true self-awareness. They weren't honest with themselves about where the market was going, and ultimately they're irrelevant today. And the last thing is you have to give people permission to fail. And there's this book that I love called Everybody Poops, because I love it because it actually tells kids it's okay to poop, which is kind of like one of those things, and as an adult, you just kind of assume that it's okay to do that. Well, as a person innovating, you have to assume that it's okay to fail. And we had to give our team, we had to give each other, we had to give everyone who's part of the project permission to fail. And fail fearlessly, fail boldly, but fail quickly, learn from it, and move on. And I think this image has always stood out in my mind because, I mean, whatever, if you're a product person, everyone loves Steve Jobs. It's super cliche and trite. But at the same time, you know, this dude's at the end of his life. He's pushing out one of his final products, and it's got a little defect in it. It's kind of a turd. You know, the fact that you hold it, it kills the signal, that's a pretty significant design flaw. But he got on the stage, he explained it, they moved on. Failure is an absolute part of innovation. They should have caught that in testing, but we push out bugs, they push out bugs. The company didn't die, no one was fired. It's absolutely part of the process. The last thing I'll say, and this is something I see a lot, and I've had the good fortune of working for a lot of big companies and getting to do some big things, innovation at Amazon and at Visa, and I actually pretended to be a consultant for a while until I realized that you can't really consult for innovation. Like, you have to actually understand your customer. You have to actually empathize with your customer. You have to understand your brand and empathize with your brand. You can't pretend that you can go into an environment and understand everything about that environment, all the communication patterns, all the data points, everything that needs to be understood to actually build a good, new, disruptive product. You can't pretend to do that as a consultant. If you do, and I'm sorry if there are consultants here, yeah, you're lying. You can outsource the doing once you get the idea right, hire some folks to crank it out, but don't hire some folks to conjure it up. So for us, point of sale is the largest program in our history. We are integrating with 14 merchants right now, as I said at the beginning. We just signed a deal with Discover, which gives us about 7 million points of acceptance, which is awesome. Our success allows our partners to scale our products to their locations very, very quickly. And our vision, again, this is just the first step in our vision. So the things that we learned in building this process, or sorry, in building this product and going through this process are going to help us drive our vision of connecting merchants and consumers, because that's ultimately our goal, both at PayPal and at eBay Inc. So our technology and ecosystem, our track record of innovation, and everything that we do will help us make it real. That's it.